Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of 10 Minute Tuesday. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe. In today's episode, I got Charles Lakes in the building. Charles, what is going on, man?
Nothing too much. How you doing? Thank you so much for having me. The
Oh
10
yeah,
minute.
appreciate you. Thanks for taking time out, man. I appreciate you.
Oh, of course, of course.
Awesome. So we've done a number of these. So Charles, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. So yeah, for anyone who hasn't come across my content yet, my name is Charles Lakes. I started as a pro code developer, still like programming, but I've been doing a lot more in the last 3, 4 years, probably just kind of promoting low code and realizing that I could do a lot as a pro code developer. So I've been a trainer, a community speaker, and so forth, just promoting low code in the Power Platform.
Love it. So, think about all the tools and you started on, big programming. I need to code everything and then migrated to like low code and how can I make this more efficient and using tools. But before that, you had to get your start. So at the start of it, what really compels you to get into data to begin with?
So data was an interesting thing where I actually wasn't going for data. I just wanted to program. It's almost like laser focused. I don't care about all the other noise. Just let me program. I want to learn as many programs as I can. I want to build as much as I could. But it came a point where I started realizing all the stuff I built was useful, but the analytics around it, the performance, the measurement, and so forth, it was just lacking. So I started drifting more and more into how can I better track the data that's going to be helpful for what I'm building. Because one of the things that's also interesting about programming, you realize at some point you don't have to build everything because someone else has already kind of done the work. You could kind of refactor it. But when you see so much being built, so much becoming technical debt, so much becoming rot, I was like, do we have any way of tracking this so that when we get rid of it, what are our savings? So that's kind of how I got into the data piece of it is I realized there's a very interesting narrative. The closer you look at the data, the more you can tell a story.
Love it. So storytelling, narrative, cost savings, all this, what do you call it? Not junk, right? You said,
Oh, the right.
yeah, right. All this right in here. So how do we get rid of it and make sure we're productive? Man, that's awesome. I never actually really thought of it that way. But yeah, there is, I'm coding, I'm programming, I'm spending all this time and then it sits on the shelf and okay, that's it. Like, how do we get rid
Yeah.
of it?
What's next?
Yeah, love it, love it. All right, so Charles, so like you talked about, you've been programming and then low code, but then I'm sure you had a number of jobs in between that. But then even in high school, think about this question, right? What's been your least favorite job you've ever had to date? And it doesn't have to necessarily be data related.
Wow, we digging into crates here. I had a lot of jobs. I would say the least favorite only because it was the furthest away from programming. I actually enjoyed the job at the time. Like I had a lot of good colleagues I enjoyed. There was a field called NDT, non-destructive testing, where you look at things like airplanes, roller coaster rides, paper mills, anything that's under high pressure. If you get hairline cracks in those, it could become like a bigger catastrophe. So I actually used to work on the field on the paper mills, working with the welders and inspectors, looking for those cracks. And it was only because it was so far from what I wanted to do with programming, I would categorize it as my least favorite, but it was a world of just understanding. And the more I think about it, that's probably where me looking at the storytelling of the data probably started as well. Because when you look at essentially these are huge paper mills. They run 24/7, pretty much 340 days out the year. And you have a very small window to come in and do your full analysis. And so when you have these chemicals, they actually do thickness readings. So we'll get thickness readings of an entire wall and do that for 3 or 4 years and track that thinning of the wall to figure out what needs to be done. But it was interesting that it gave me the first foray into data, but it was so far from programming. I would say it was the least favorite because it wasn't as tech as I wanted it to be.
Got you. So you still love the passion, like you learned something from it, but it was just like, this isn't what I want to do. Like I want to get back and I want to do the programming.
I want to do the program. But it's funny because there's something that my dad used to say. I don't know if he meant for it to come across this way, but he used to say that everybody he meets owes him something. And I took that in that there's a lesson to be learned from everything. Every encounter, every engagement, every situation, there's something for me to learn. So that's been something I've really taken is that every person owes me something. I need something from this encounter to just kind of learn and grow.
I love that, and I'm gonna take that, and then also we're gonna piggyback. That kind of ties into our next question of the philosophy, right? What is Well, we have a philosophy here called failing forward, right? Everything that you do is a lesson to get better or take it with you. So, thinking
Yeah.
about that philosophy and then even what your dad said, what would you consider your biggest failure, quotation marks around failure, and what did you learn from the experience?
So my biggest failure, I've been wondering about this because I feel like as I get older, I want to share with other people to not make the same trips I did. I think my biggest failure was not knowing my worth when I first started in this industry. There was a company where they've gone under now, so it's not like I need to bring their name up again, but they were very much not really on the up and up. And so when me and other people came on board to start learning a new craft, get upskilled and so forth, I didn't realize how much in certain industries people could take advantage of you. So my biggest failure was not realizing how to advocate for myself early in my career and just kind of getting taken advantage of by that particular consulting company.
Yeah, man, I feel like that's a lesson, especially in consulting and different places. Like
Yep.
you're I don't know if you experienced it, but I definitely experienced where like I was so excited to get the role, to get the job, to get the position.
Yep.
Like it didn't matter what, the cost was. I didn't understand. I was just so happy to get my foot in the door. And then like hindsight's always 2020. Like, did you have a similar experience?
Oh, that was definitely an experience because you're the new kid, you're getting that first big company, they're throwing dollar signs at you, so you don't think about what the money actually means. But they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna see you to do this, we're gonna train you how to do X, Y, and Z." I was so excited that I was getting that first real job and they were gonna be paying me X amount of money because going from a internship, a co-op, that's a very big difference in the amount of money they were offering. But hindsight, I'm like, it wasn't worth it. I learned a lot and grew from it, but it was definitely an experience I grew from that never again.
Yeah.
Never
It
again.
never again. All right. So thinking about this, right? The audience for this is typically is someone who's trying to branch into data, break into data, or they're pivoting into data, or they're in data for extended years. I don't know who watches this. Hopefully that's who I'm going after. But thinking about that, what is one piece of advice you give someone who's just starting out in their career?
Especially in the data field, I would see what I would recommend find what narrative you can tell with the data. Because the more we look at technology, mobile development, apps, and so forth, we're collecting more and more data these days. So I think if you're wanting to break into this field, I would suggest you look into how can you best understand what it means to transform the whole ETL process. How can you better understand the ETL process and how can you be able to give the insights that people need? Because a lot of things when you talk about marketing yourself, it's not necessarily you're showing what you can do, but you're selling a solution. If you have this data, what story, what insights, what intelligence can you tell from it? So I would suggest people start practicing just getting used to the ETL process and being able to give those type of insights.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that you said a solution, right? It's not I'm just writing these SQL scripts or I'm just, doing these queries or building something out. It's like I'm actually building a solution that's impactful and that's going to drive some type of outcome.
Well, and then even if you're just doing it for fun, one
Yeah.
of the things I did when I was in college is, again, I was just programming. If you gave me anything to program against, I was programming. I remember I was watching different movies and TV shows. I wrote my own .NET application to keep track of what I was watching. I wanted to keep track of how did I feel about it. I give it like a C or B. What genre was it? So I created a Access database to track all the genres, the ratings, and so forth. And I created my own analytics. Like, what genres do I gravitate towards? What am I giving the highest value to? So it could be something productive for work. It could be a passion project, just whatever brings you joy. Because I do think when you make it fun, you kind of gravitate towards it much faster.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, kind of a follow up question to that. You talk about programming. So, like your passion bleeds out, which I love. You're like all about programming and the passion and the technology. So
Yeah.
as you evolve, right, you're an architect, you do a number of things, you're a speaker and stuff. What's the thing that still drives you, to stay in the craft and stay in the program and understanding, what's new and what's coming out? What's that thing that just drives you to stay active?
I just think I have a insatiable knowledge to just always be reading, always learning something because I may not master it all. Because that's one of the things that's interesting about being an architect is that when you're the developer, you have to be deep into a particular discipline. When you're architect, you just have a wider breadth of it. And I think it allows me to just keep having that idea of what else can I learn? Because the more I learn, the more, I think it's a cliche phrase. The more you learn, the more you realize that you don't actually know because there's so much. And for me, it's just that genuine excitement of, oh, I didn't know about this. I thought I knew this, but I didn't. So I think what just keeps me going is just I like to learn. I've always been the nerdy kid that went to the engineering camps that enjoy doing like math puzzles and so forth. So I've always just had a puzzling mind.
Love that, man. Keep learning. Everybody out there, keep learning. Keep it
Yeah,
going. Keep
keep
growing.
learning. Don't get tired of learning.
Yeah. Gotta learn always. All right, Charles, tell me about the most influential people in your life and how they made an impact on you.
So the people who have been the most impactful, it's always interesting how they impact in different ways. And what's funny is I don't think he's ever gonna see this, so it's kind of funny. I can give him the attention he's not looking forward to. But I actually, fun enough, I think my younger brother actually influences me a lot because you have somebody that, because he's also in programming, he's more of a manager role now, but it was always interesting when we both went to the computer program. There's that rivalry because we're close-ish in age. It's only a 2-year difference. So you have somebody that you grow up with, you have similar hobbies, you're always kind of competing. And I think he's always driven me to a certain degree. And so I think when I think about what I've been able to learn from him, it's always been that different insight as well. I have one way of looking at a problem, he may have another. So he's driven me to keep on going and to constantly reevaluate to stay on my toes because he's always trying to catch me on something. So, that brotherly idea, you can't let him catch you slipping.
Yeah. Yeah. Healthy competition, man. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
And what's your brother's name?
Sherrod.
Sherrod, I'll make sure I'm tag Sherrod, man. I'm gonna chop up this clip and make sure I send it to him and be like, "Hey, your brother gave you props."
Hey, it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think healthy competition does help bring out the best in you a lot because we can all grow to a certain degree. But when you have something that gives you a goal of, even if it's healthy, like, hey, I've just got to make sure I'm better than that person,
Yeah.
it's funny when it's your brother.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Iron sharpens iron, for real.
Yep.
Love it. All right, Charles, where can listeners find you at online?
So there's a few different places. Of course, this be on LinkedIn. You also find me at LinkedIn, Charles Lakes. I am also on GitHub. The name isn't as descriptive. It's going to be Losodamus. So Losodamus. So whatever random things I'm working on at the time may be on my GitHub, but GitHub and LinkedIn are the best places to find me.
Awesome. Appreciate it. So y'all heard him. Follow him on LinkedIn. Check out his GitHub. We'll get him on YouTube one day, getting some content out there. We'll keep working on him to see if we can post some videos, man. We'll get you out there. But appreciate you taking time out today, Charles.
Thanks so much for having me.
For sure. And as I said in the beginning, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Have a great day.